Why, hi there, I'm Ron Juckett, and it's time once again for another edition of the DoDCast. Today, this Pearl Harbor Day, the 7th day of December, 2017. I'm Ron Juckett. Drew Douglas is not able to be with us tonight from the start. We've had some issues come up. I had issues last week, and he's had a family emergency to attend to. It is our hope that he'll be able to be back in line for the winter meetings coverage next week. But these issues are going to be a little bit ongoing for a while. And so from the start, my best to Drew and his family as they go through this time. We do have a mystery guest, which I hope will be on sometime in the next 5 minutes to help me go through some of this stuff. And I guess before we start to get to people's questions and all that, yes, this has been an amazingly quiet off season. And when you normally say the word quiet, you get 50 people batting you over the head to say that's the wrong word to say. But outside of signing Ryan Rayburn to a minor league contract and the whole new coaching staff, which is, pretty big, except for Bob Henley. Which is a pretty big deal on its own. I mean, nothing much has happened so far for anybody. I mean, there was we'll get to today's news in a bit and talk a little bit about the winter meetings that are going on next week in Orlando, and what to expect from them if Washington is going to do much of anything there. But for now, we're just going to kind of hope and wait. And I don't think I wrote a piece today. This morning, I think it's been a long week, regarding the Nationals not signing Ohtani and not in the mix for Giancarlo Stanton, and I think that's perfectly fine. Ohtani seems to want to be a big fish in a little pond, and I think at this point he's going to Seattle. And yes, Judo, I've had enough of that. And Stanton seems to be, boy, that's a mess. That is a giant mess. And I can't imagine what the Marlins would try to have extorted from Washington if Stanton had wanted to be there. All right. We'll get to D. Gordon in a minute because our special guest, when he comes on, hopefully in a few minutes, we'll talk a little bit about that. But that was an interesting trade. I don't know what I guess my preliminary thoughts on that, Seth, are that it's a case of, look, they want Ohtani something fierce, and Miami gave them more money for international signing money so they can make that happen. To make that happen, outside of trading 2 more prospects, they ate all of D. Gordon's contract. So when our special guest comes on, we'll talk about that just a little bit more. But we need to ask you yesterday on Twitter for some questions, and you did deliver, which is always good. I guess before we get into that, I'm interested that the Cubs have signed Tyler Chatwood. He's going to make $13 million in 2020, according to John Heyman. Escalates to $15 million if he makes the All-Star game in 2018 and 2019, or receives 1 Cy Young vote in 2018 or 19. It escalates to $17 million if he receives 1 Cy vote in 2018 and 2019. So 2 writers' votes could mean $4 million for the Cubs. Now, that's really the first name to go off the board outside of Doug Fister and some of those. So be curious now that maybe there's a marketplace established. Maybe the Nats now know how much they can expect to spend if they want to go for a free agent 5th starter or a free agent starter in general. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 5th, but that's where it is. You guys are supposed to get snow down there. I saw today that they had a snow down in Austin, Texas, and they're supposed to get snow in Florida tonight. We've had snow twice. It hasn't stayed. Okay, so I will answer the first question that you guys put on Twitter. If you got any questions for me, put them on the live chat, and I'll try to get to them. But we had a bunch of people submit stuff on Twitter. Helps if I hit the right button. All right. Old friend Ricky Keeler asks, I'll throw one out there. Do I expect any Nat surprises at the winter meetings? And I'll preface this by saying that, I think the Nats have been waiting to see uh, what the marketplace is going to be for their needs. Also, remember, they have 12 free agents, one of which is signed. Only Ryan Rayburn has made a decision, and he is back. So, how many free agents from last year do they try to keep? Do they try to keep Jason Worth? That doesn't seem very likely. Do they try to keep Howie Kendrick? I think you'd like to see him keep them. We've written articles about replacing Adam Lind. It doesn't seem like Lind is going to come back. Some of the others, you have a catching situation that needs to be taken care of. But I think for the most part, I think mostly it's a case of, look, they want to see what the market's going to be for some players, and to see how many of their own free agents they're going to sign. So I don't think they're going to be playing wheeler dealer too much there. If you want to put out a surprise, maybe we get some movement on Bryce Harper. Maybe that comes out. That would be a huge surprise. Seth believes that Jake Arrieta is going to the Nats. I think it depends on how much money they're going to commit. Look, they're already over the competitive balance tax as it is now, heading into next season. I think they're going to be fine with that. But I really don't see them going with an opening day payroll of over $170 million. I don't know what type of deal Jake Arrieta wants. If he's going to want something in the 60 to 80 range, I don't see that happening, Seth. If he wants a 1 or 2 year deal, I think they'd do it. But they have a lot of money committed long term to Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg. Now, Gio is a very cheap pitcher this year. But he is a potential free agent. Joe Ross, when he comes back from his injury, either late next year or in 2019, he has a lot to prove. And of course, there's Tanner Roark, who seems to be the most misunderstood pitcher in baseball, or at least on the Nats. So, could they use someone like Arrieta? Yes. Could they? But I don't think they want to overpay to the tune of 4 years and $80 million. And yes, Seth, I do agree that Brandon Kinsler is a must keep. He really just fits so well in that 7th inning spot. But I wrote a piece, I think it was yesterday. There are people right now that can fill that 7th inning role. You have Matt Albers, who I believe really is a must keep. And if you're not going to keep him, you have, Coda Glover, Eddie Romero, and Sammy Solis, who qualify as hard throwers. You'd like to see get that job and see what they can do with it. That's up on the site. I believe I wrote that yesterday. All right, I'm still waiting to see if we get mystery guest. But I'll answer Mr. Judo's next 2 questions. 2 questions. Of the Nats currently on the team, who do I expect to have a breakout season this year? Who do I expect to have a breakout season? I think some people would tell you it's Trey Turner, but I think that we know what he's capable of. Adam Eaton, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do over the course of a full season. I guess it'd be a breakout for Washington, not necessarily in his own career. I'd love to see, Matt Wieters has come under a lot of pressure for what didn't happen last year. I think if you gave him a situation where he wasn't catching 120 games, if it was a case where either it's Pedro Severino or someone via trade, or I actually wrote an article about Alex Avila coming in. I can see Wieters having a breakout in a contract here, and Seth brings up a good point with Tanner Roark. But who knows where his head's at? He might be the one that scares you the most next year too. Who cares about Coda Glover? Coda Glover is a closer in the future, Seth. His stuff was just electric last spring. He has that mentality, devil may care. let the chips fall what they may. He made the classic mistake of trying to pitch through an injury and didn't think of his team. If they can keep him healthy, oh no, I think Glover and Romero are possible closers in the future. And I think you really should be excited about what Cody Glover can give you, but he has to stay healthy and he has to pitch within his limits. Yeah, no, it was his own selfish mistake. Oh, I hear another voice. Speak.
Hey, Ron.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. You had asked the first question, and so I actually read it. We'd like to welcome back to the DoDCast, the creator. And now, where are you these days?
Well, covering a good St. John's team, 8-1 over on Elite Sports New York. Big game tomorrow in LA against Arizona State, which is 16th ranked. And then over at Pinstripe Prospects doing some Yankee minor league coverage. So things will be busy. We got top 50 prospects coming out in January, so we're working on profiles for those guys and just having some fun over there. But I'm missing you guys.
Well, we miss you too. You probably did not catch my intro with Drew. Drew's dealing with some family emergency stuff, and we hope to have him. It's going to be one of these off and on things for a while, as these things tend to drag out a little bit. That's probably not the right wording, but these things never happen as in a uniform manner, and hope that he's able to join me for what Ricky and I did last year, the nightly coverage during the winter meetings, at least for 10 or 15 minutes. And maybe, Seth, you get your trade or signing during the show then.
Well, I was going to bring up to Seth. I was looking on my Facebook memories thing that 1 year ago today was the Adam Eaton trade, wasn't it?
That's right, because the winter meetings are a week later.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. You're absolutely right. So I suspect they'll get busier then. I don't know if you heard me. I actually answered your question that you tweeted yesterday. Do I expect any Nats surprises at the winter meetings? And I answered it saying I would not be surprised if we actually, it wouldn't surprise me if we got the Bryce Harper news we're all looking for.
Yeah, I think that could be something. I'm not so sure if the Nats are going to be as big a player this year compared to last year because you still have Darvish. I don't know will be gone by then. Arrieta, I don't think will be gone by then. It's really down to the guys I think Stanton, Martinez,
right? Maybe
Alex Cobb, but I'm not thinking the Nats are going to be the big players, at least in Orlando this week. Maybe afterwards, but I don't think this week.
Yeah. So I'll ask you first about the Chatwood signing. What do you think that does to the market?
That was a surprising one. I actually liked the move by the Cubs, and if he's getting close to $40 million, Cobb is going to get a lot of money. Arrieta is definitely going to get a lot of money because he's gone from Chicago. Darvish is going to get a lot of money. But that's a great move. That's a guy who's great on the road, sucks at Coors Field, but doesn't have to pitch in Coors Field much anymore. So I like that move. I think maybe Chicago might have one more move in there, but Theo's got himself at least a good middle of the rotation starter behind Lester and Hendricks and Quintana.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if the Nats made a sneaky trade during the winter meetings. I think that they need to reduce the load from Matt Wieters next year at catcher, and obviously they need another starting pitcher.
Right.
I think they may find that you can find a catcher on the open market.
What do you make of the whole Yasmani Grandal everybody's talking about? Would you make that move?
We're supposed to, before Drew got sidelined, he's supposed to do an article on that. It depends on what the Dodgers wanted, I suppose.
See, that could be something small because it sounds like they want Austin Barnes to be the catcher anyway.
Right. Yeah. The name that I wrote up this week was Alex Avila.
That guy's going to get a lot of money.
Yeah, but if that's a case of, look, you can get him for 2 years, I think the biggest surprise one of the bigger surprises for me coming out of the season was just how the lack of development from Pedro Severino. Roddy Reed is probably major league ready as a hitter, but his defense tells me that he's a designated hitter someplace.
We're close to putting Reed over Severino on the organizational depth chart.
I would think so. Do we think Daniel Murphy will win a batting title in 2018? Considering that 7 of the last 14 batting titles in the National League have come from Coors Field, the answer is maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to look out. I know Seth tweeted me that this afternoon. There's still Charlie Blackmon and DJ LeMahieu to worry about, the last 2 batting champions.
Let's see. The other question that Judo had, who do you think could be the best addition to the Nationals could make this offseason? Well, I suppose if they were going to pay for an Arrieta, or that would be pretty good. But the best addition the Nats can make this offseason. I'd like some stability behind the plate. I really do think if they found someone that could come in and be the effective backup for Wieters and cut his load down to 90, 100 games behind the plate, that Wieters will be a lot more effective as a hitter. Now, I wrote a piece on Lucas Duda coming to the Nationals, and the response to that from you out there was something, well, I can't repeat a lot of it. But they need to replace, if they do not resign Adam Lind, they need to replace that power off the bench. There's a number of names out there. I don't think they're going to go out to Darvish. Arrieta obviously would be, depending on the deal. And maybe, Judo, I'm gonna give you the short answer. They're gonna get a full season out of Adam Eaton, and that's something that is a tremendous asset coming into the year. It also should allow Victor Robles to, when he finally come up for good.
Here's the other thing maybe to look out for at the meetings. Does somebody trade for Michael Taylor? Do the Nats believe that Victor Robles is ready to go now? Because I think Chelsea Janes had a couple weeks ago that he was going to start at Syracuse, which is the right thing to do. I guess the D. Gordon trade kind of takes out Seattle, which would have been the logical fit in center field for Taylor, but I wouldn't rule out Mike Rizzo trying to do that, getting something back and slotting Victor Robles in there.
What is Seattle thinking? Besides the extra money to sign Ohtani?
I think it's we all remember Trey Turner playing center field, and
right.
D. Gordon, if he's got the speed to play center field and they can make the shifts work. Look, they're taking on only 30. They take on the whole contract, but it's only $38 million over 3 years. They could put him in the outfield. If they get Ohtani, they can get Darvish. I mean, DePoto's swinging for the fences. He's the prospect trader, which somebody at my Pinstripe prospect spot gave me, because I call Rick Hahn the prospect wizard, but I couldn't come up with one for Jerry DePoto. So I call him the prospect trader. Think that if they get Ohtani and they get Darvish, they're definitely up there and contending, but DePoto's going for it. So I can respect it. And for the Marlins, it's just start of the fire sale, and it's basically a message telling Stanton, get out.
Oh yeah. The Marlins thing's an absolute mess. Nationals Post has a couple of questions. What changes will Dave Martinez make to the Nats game plan? Pitcher batting eighth, pull pitchers early, due for more than ninth. I'll start with the last part of that. I don't think you'll ever see a modern closer in the regular season be more than a 3-out guy. He's not going to come out and get 4 or 5 outs or 6. The bullpen, they have Ryan Manson. So I think, you have your 2 people to get those 6 outs. But, you don't want to take the chance in having him go for more than that. Will pitchers bat eighth? I'm sure Martinez will experiment with it in this early part of the season. I mean, Joe Madden got it to work, and he is a Madden disciple. Does it work? I don't know. But, I think you could see Martinez experimenting with it, pulling pitchers early. One of the things, Ricky, that you and I talked an awful lot about over the course of the season was the pitch count loads of teams, of the team. But with a full bullpen, I'm not sure that that's going to be as necessary next year. So he may do that, but it may be more because Martinez can potentially trust his staff as opposed to Dusty having to do it to just to give himself half a chance to win some of these games.
You would think not. And the Nats could be adding a reliever or 2, whether they bring back Brandon Kinsler. I know Jesse Sanchez, MLB.com, said last night the Nats were interested in Sergio Romo. So that could be a fit. But I think on the Martinez front, I kind of look back to what happened this week in New York with Aaron Boone. I think they're just looking for a guy that can keep that communication going. I mean, that's the buzzword with Aaron Boone this week. And I think with the Nats, it's just don't screw it up. And I don't know if we'll see if Martinez has any of these crazy first-time ideas, or Do they stick with the analytics department and sort of go through there? It depends on what the guys in the front office want to do mostly, because their managers now are more so guys that have good communication and good relationships with the players.
Yeah, no, and I think, I think the most immediate changes is probably see some more analytics. You're going to see a lot of experimenting, I think, in West Palm Beach, which is good because we get those same 21 games against the Cubs. I mean, the Marlins.
Yeah, I saw that. Don't the Nats have like 12 games or 15 games with the Cardinals?
Well, remember, Jupiter's right down the road, so it's 14 between the Cardinals and the Marlins. They play 21 between the three. Of course, Houston shares the facility.
You should be able to play Name That Marlin
I would think that yes. It's the one aspect I don't think you're going to miss a hell of a lot.
With all the trades, we won't know who the heck is on the Marlins by January.
That kind of dovetails into Nationals Post next question. Will the Nats face any stronger competition in the East in 2018 than 2017? No. I don't know what's your take on the Mets? You're right there.
If the starting pitching stays healthy, I think if Thor comes back and DeGrom has been consistent, if Matt Harvey turns into 3 years ago, Matt Harvey, I don't know what the Mets are going to do, because there's been talk about Jay Bruce. Do they trade for Ian Kinsler? I think they'll add another relief arm. Brian Shaw's name that pops up all the time because of the connection with Mickey Callaway. They could be there. It depends on how healthy they are. I mean, if I had to pick another team, maybe Atlanta, depending on what Anthopoulos does there. I mean, he's a guy that can get creative and make moves, but Philadelphia is getting there. I think you got another year where the Nats are at least going to be in contention, if not running away with the division, because Miami's in a dumpster fire nosedive right now, and I don't know yet if Philly's ready. I think Philly's a year or two away, because then they'll start spending the big bucks.
Jorge Castillo is watching you because he just tweeted Trey Turner is a recent example of a fast middle infielder going to center fielder. So good job, Ricky. I don't see Miami's going to go way down. I think Philly's going to kind of hold their things because they have almost no payroll going into 2019. And Atlanta seems to be a little more aggressive, but they were aggressive last year in getting some starting pitching, and it didn't really get them anywhere. I think by the end of it, freezing cold takes will get a cool out of this. I think they win the division by 15, 20 games again. You might change the rest of the deck chairs in the Titanic, but unless Ricky makes a good point, unless the Mets starters are all healthy and contribute very well, I just don't see there being any real competition for the Nats in the division. Depending on who the Cubs sign, even though I don't think it's going to be Ohtani, obviously the bigger Nats threats are in October.
If the Dodgers get Stanton.
Oh, yeah, that's true. All right. CMG Drama asks, when is baseball coming back to, and can it save us from all the terrible news lately? Well, the real world is always fun. I believe we are 92 days away from the start of spring training games. Is that about right?
Yeah, something like that, like 80, 90, yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, it will be around the corner soon enough. And who do you think the Nats will get for a fifth starter? I think they will have to go out and sign somebody. I know Drew's pretty high on Scott Feldman as a trade from the Reds.
Mm-hmm.
I think depending on what their payroll flexibility is, they could go out and just get someone. And gosh, imagine Tanner Roark as a fifth. I think this may be the position where they kind of treat it like the closer last year and really give AJ Cole and Eric Fetty as much of a chance to win that job as possible.
Or this is where you could also get creative and use some of your non-roster invitees and try to find a spot that way.
The Matt Alvarez type signing.
It didn't work last year, like a Vance Worley type or just somebody to or Edwin Jackson type. I'm not saying bring back Edwin Jackson, but somebody to compete for that spot. I'm trying to look up any possible small signings you could throw out there. I know I saw Mark Zuckerman had something like if you wanted to throw your hat into the CC Sabathia sweepstakes, That could be it. A guy like Mike Fiers, who just got non-tendered, could be an option there.
Fiers would be a good one. Smiley for the second half. I forgot he was non-tendered, but Drew reminded me.
Smiley's hurt though.
He's out till the second half of the year. Seth says,
Chris Tillman, maybe.
Yeah, those are all names out there. I think it depends. I think it depends on what the market will bear. Seth says the spring training facility is the home of the champions for 2 years in a row. Well, we'll see about that. I don't want the Nats to win the division by 20 because we all know what happened. I think one of the things that cost Dusty Baker, I think, his job was how they played those last 3 weeks of the season. He was adamant about trying to get people as milestones, and I just never have gotten a sense in my time here that the Nets players care about those sort of things. Trying to get Kinsler his 30th save. It was nice to get some contract bonuses in, but I really don't think that's what they play for. And don't forget the other big thing, Seth, is that the Bryce Harper injury. He just came back so late that he wasn't 100% by the time he got back to the playoffs. I'll take a healthy team winning the division by 20 because I know they'll be lined up and ready to go. And he thinks it's Alex Cobb, but you're going to have to make a trade for Cobb, right?
No, Cobb's a free agent. You're just going to have to pay a lot of money for Alex.
Right.
Cobb. That's the guy everybody seems to want. Not probably closer to where Darvish and Arrieta are because a lot of people want that guy.
And he's younger too, so he'd be a smart pick.
And he came off Tommy John. Nats love guys coming after Tommy John because they know how to handle them.
Absolutely. Thomas Wilson asks, who is the Nats opening day center fielder? Well, unless he's traded, I think it's Michael Taylor.
Has to be Michael Taylor. No, I don't think it's close. Got to let Robles play every day. And I think that was kind of I won't say the detriment of playing in the postseason because you want to give him the experience, but he didn't really play. So he didn't get that extended fall league that you probably would have wanted to. He's not playing winter ball. But still, postseason experience will help him for sure.
Tortured Nats fan 25 asks this evening. Some say it goes for a lot of people. Some say Matt Wieters will have his bounce back season in 2018. Your thoughts?
Can't be any worse, can he?
No. If you look at his splits from the end of the season, it was pretty obvious that fatigue really, really played a factor. He had like 130 in September. No, I think it's if there is no other major league ready catcher there, I don't see it. They need someone who's capable of catching 60, 70 games. And the one advantage that Avila might have and that Washington might just go out and spend the money for is he can play first base. If you need to have someone who can kind of fill in for Ryan Zimmerman from time to time, he's your guy. Or he's possibly your guy. Didn't say he's a great defender, but it's not as bad as Wilmer Defoe in center field defense. That was bad. If you remember, Wieters hit 300 in April. And so, yes.
He was great first month.
Yeah. And so, yes, I think if he were to really cut down his workload, Mr. Nats fan 25, yes, I think he can bounce back. If he gets as much use as he did this year, a year older, no, I'm really not seeing it. It's possible, but they really have to help him out. But as we get further and further into free agency, more and more holes open up if players sign elsewhere. Out of the 12, when now Rayburn is still with the organization, so out of the 11 free agents the Nats have left, who do you think is crucial, Ricky, that they resign?
Brandon Kinsler. I think if you want to keep the whole mojo going with Kinsler, Madsen, and Doolittle, that's the guy I'd want to bring back. And the Cubs have shown interest in him. We don't really know if he's going to get the Brian Shaw type money. I won't say the Mike Minor type money because Minor's probably going to be a starter at $28 million. But that's a guy that you could always go out there and add another reliever. I don't think the Nats are going to be playing in the Wade Davis, Greg Holland sweepstakes. So I think adding a guy and keeping Kinsler, or better yet, avoiding him going into your competitor. You don't want to see Kinsler in Chicago. I think that's a guy I would make a a point on re-signing it. Maybe to your Dusty point, maybe Dusty trying to get him to 30 saves gets him to want to come back.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think Kinsler is probably the most crucial piece. It'd be nice to get Howie Kendrick back. I think Adam Lind is going into an American League team. I think Jason Worth is going to go to an American League team. And so the rest of them are just kind of puzzle type pieces. Let's see. Lance Lynn, that was someone that you were real high on at the trade deadline last year, but him and the Cardinals just have a relationship that is best described as icy.
I worry about St. Louis. I think St. Louis could be doing something pretty big in the next few weeks. But
well, they're still in on Stanton.
They're in on Stanton, but there's a lot of talk in the industry. They're in on a lot of other different things. So the Cardinals are going to be one of those teams you probably want to watch next week because they're going to probably try to do something big. But I like Lynn just as his consistency. He goes out there, you kind of know what you're going to get from him. I mean, even if you wanted to throw another guy out there, like Jason Vargas, I mean, he's a guy that can go out there, and I think he's left-handed. I'm not trying to remember if he is or not, but he's a guy quietly had 18 wins with the Royals last year. I mean, who knows if he's cost as much as the top three guys, so you can maybe make a run there.
Yeah, no question. I think they have lots of options. The market, but I think that Rizzo is going to wait till the market establishes himself. Everything is usually a stealth move with him, as we've seen. And they usually work out. Seth thinks that Robles will be the 2018 version of Wilmer Defoe. I don't think Robles will be up until he can play on a very regular basis. He's not someone, especially at 21, that you're going to bring up just to sit and watch games from the dugout. If that means that he sits the first half of the year in Syracuse, at least he's playing every day. Now, first injury, that looks like that he could play in 2 or 3 days a week. I think he comes up. But if he's just going to sit there and rot like Dusty had with him the last 3 weeks of the season, the playoffs, I'd rather have him in Syracuse.
There's something to playing AAA every day. Remember, he bypassed AAA entirely to get to the big league. So it's something about facing semi-major league pitching. And remember, he still has had those base running issues, particularly in the fall league. He had a couple of those. So that's something he's going to have to work on to earn the trust at the major league level. So there is things Robles still has to improve on before he can be the everyday center fielder in the minor leagues, and that's what that's for.
Seth also mentions Nick Hundley as an option, but I think Nick's bat is as bad as Weeder's, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Not great. It's not a great backup catcher market. I saw Derek Norris sign with Detroit.
As a non-roster invitee.
That's a shocker.
Maybe just kind of jolted me back to reality there for a second.
What about I saw the name Jonathan Lucroy out there.
Boy, his start.
He's been linked to the Nats a lot.
It's possible. It's certainly possible.
Backup. If you're going to get Lucroy or Grandal, you're going to platoon the position, and you can maybe take Severino or Reed or even Taylor Cashew if you really want to go that route and trade that way and use your catcher surplus to make a deal there.
So, yeah, I guess we both kind of came to the same conclusion at the same time. Is Pedro Severino tradable at this point? Because
I think the stock's gone down.
Yeah, I mean, he really set himself back last year. You know more about the minor leagues than I do. Roddy Reed is probably ready for major league pitching to hit, but his defense is just a tremendous liability.
He has to work on his defense. I think that's really the key with him. But his bat is well advanced. I think he's a player to keep an eye on. Severino, to me, like I said, has gone further down. He's still a good defensive catcher, catches the pitchers well, but his bat took a real downturn. Right.
Would you maybe try to teach Reed a different position?
No, I don't think I would go that route yet. Remember, he also only went from Double-A to the big leagues.
Yeah,
that's a guy I can take my time with as a catcher, whether it be in Harrisburg, or whether he starts as the starting catcher at Syracuse. I mean, I don't think you're in a position yet where you have to put him somewhere else just to get him on the field. He's not ready yet.
No. Couple. Seth says Joe Bland's career is over. I think you're right on that. But someone who will get a long look at spring training is Sean Kelly, because the Nats don't eat money ever.
But it was an interesting thing they added Wander Suero to the 40-man. That's a guy that had such a great season last year for Harrisburg and Syracuse. He's been a non-roster invitee so many times. That's a guy that maybe the Nats take a look at him in that whole, you talked about, I know you guys wrote an article on the whole Solis, Romero, Glover thing. Maybe he's a guy that opens eyes and gets an opportunity.
Well, I think there's certainly a role for all three, regardless of whether Kinsler comes back or not. But you got to think that Suero was close to ready. But he dominated down in Syracuse.
Exactly. A lot of people were surprised that he didn't get an opportunity to be at the big league level and contribute.
Yeah, I think we get a long look at him too. I don't want to say this because this will be a jinx, but I do think that the bullpen now, they have a lot of options, which is something that they didn't have last year. Even if Kinsler doesn't come back, they still have a lot of options. The bullpen's a lot better with Kinsler than it is without it. But we're not talking the desperate times of just taking spaghetti and flinging it on the wall to see who closes. And you know what? No, Seth, I disagree with you on Kelly. I think when he's healthy, when he's on, he's on. And I think everyone has to see for sure. I really think he pitched with an injury most of last year. And people just kind of caught up to him. And so spring training is when you work those things out. If he goes out and has a decent spring and he's healthy, why wouldn't you use him? The Nats don't eat money, and they're certainly not going to eat the $5 million.
Not unless Sean Kelly can't pitch anymore.
Right. It's a difference. If Kelly comes out the first couple practices around Valentine's Day and say, I can't do this anymore, that's a different story. But I think for all parties concerned, I think the Nats and Kelly had to make that decision together. He's under contract. You're not just going to let him go. Let him see what he can do. It's a difference to do it in March against the Atlanta Braves as opposed to July when you need when you have a big series against the Dodgers. I think that takes care of all the questions. Yep. All right. Before we go, we'll talk a little Yankees. What'd you think of the Aaron Boone move?
Wasn't my first choice. I liked Hensley Bam Bam Mullins. I even liked Beltran when that name came out. I think they want a guy that likes analytics. Boone clearly likes analytics. He talked a lot yesterday about the relationship with the players. I think he's the guy that can connect with Sanchez and Judge. I think he'll put a good staff around him. Hopefully, maybe you see like an Eric Wedge as the bench coach or something like that to help him. It's a tall order. I'm going to be an open mind and give him an opportunity to prove me wrong. I can't say he'll suck as a manager, and I can't say he'll be great as a manager. So got to see what he can do first.
I thought there were amazing managerial candidates who never got a phone call. I was dumbfounded when they passed over Mullins. Everything I read.
I read about with Mullins that maybe under Bochy he doesn't embrace the analytics stuff as much as maybe you would like him to be. And the Giants aren't really that analytic-driven team because they have Bochy there right now.
Right. And I think most people in baseball think that Mullins gets the job when Bochy leaves.
Yeah, I think when you make him the bench coach, it sounds like he's the successor at some point.
But, had I done the top 10 candidates to replace Dusty before you left? Or was that after?
Yeah, I think so.
And, of course,
no,
none of them got jobs. It was wonderful. None of them. And I didn't have Dave Martinez either. Just wonderful.
Sorry, John Farrell's on line 2 for you.
Sure.
Nothing says Yankees Red Sox like Alex Cora versus Aaron Boone, does it?
That's true. That's true. No, I'm very happy with the Cora signing. I'm happy with what the Red Sox have done this offseason. Now, we'll see how many kids Dombrowski trades away, which will be all of them. But that's just the way he does that. Let's see. What else? Were you surprised that Ohtani wanted no part of New York?
Yes, but that's just because a lot of people told you that New York was the favorite. But then you hear he wants the West Coast, he wants small market. again, I don't blame him for wanting to go through this exercise. I know a lot of people are mad that if he wasn't going to include any East Coast teams, then why bother taking all these questionnaires and all this stuff to begin with? The fit, I want to see him Seattle if he's on a contender, because I think it makes more sense. Non-contender wise, put him in San Diego. I mean, he can play every day. He can hit and pitch. Not a lot of pressure there. Nope. And you can kind of make him the face of that franchise, which I kind of think he wants to be.
Well, I hope I'm wrong about this, but he kind of strikes me as a Daisuke Matsuzaka personality, which kind of a little diva-ish. And he just comes across as wanting to be the big fish in a small pond.
Yeah, because there was the report from Rossi that he wanted to be the first Japanese player in a certain spot. So you rule out New York with Matsui, Boston, Matsuzaka. I would say Ichiro, but Seattle seems to be spending all the money for him. They must think that he wants to go there.
From what I've read tonight, watching Twitter a little bit, reading your questions, Dipoto really seems to think that's it. As soon as they can secure the money to do that. San Diego wouldn't surprise me just for that reason. He seems to want to be, he's young. He's 22, 23. And so it's kind of hard to just read in the fact that he's still a kid. But, some of the stuff is kind of concerning about his demands. I'd like to have seen him in Washington, but I just can't see an organization as conservative as the Nats ever letting him play out in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Ever.
No, I don't think so. And there was something to the point I think Zuckerman wrote about. The Nats never really signed any of these big Japanese players.
Well, they don't have any money anyway.
That too. I mean, hey, if Seattle if you want to give international money to Seattle, one of these teams, and get a good prospect out of it, then by all means, go for that.
Right.
Look what Minnesota did. It added 2 good prospects, and all they do is give up international money.
Right.
And they ended up getting the guy for a couple million anyway.
Yeah. No, I agree. So, all right. So we'll wrap this up in a minute. Where's your sense where Stanton's going?
I mean, if he's gonna go to San Francisco, it's got to be, I think, by the start of the meetings. I still get the sense the guy really wants to play for the Dodgers, and he's going to make Miami send him to LA. Especially now that Miami didn't have to pay any of the D. Gordon money.
That's insane.
That they can now take on a little bit more of the Stanton money. So I don't get the Giants, because San Francisco is going to gut their whole system to make that move, and they're still a kind of an aging team. Personally, I don't think he'll go here. I would love to see him in St. Louis. He would be loved in St. Louis.
Oh, he absolutely would.
He would be what Pujols used to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think until those two people sign or get traded, I think everything stays kind of quiet. But that quiet should end soon. All right. Well, I'd like to thank Ricky Keeler for pinch hitting for Drew Douglas. And Ricky, tell people where they can read you.
All right. Well, follow me on Twitter at Rickinator555. You can catch my St. John's work at EliteSportsNewYork.com. I started a podcast over there, St. John's B-Ball Breakdown. So we just recorded a couple days ago. Also, for my Yankee minor league stuff, go to PinstripeProspects.com.
Any surprises for us with the Yankees?
I don't think so. I think that if maybe they'll go after Cobb if they don't get Sabathia. Maybe they add a reliever or two, but their big money spending is next year. Although John Heyman threw out the whole maybe Baltimore throws Machado out there, and I can't rule out the Yankees wanting to try to get Manny Machado a year early.
Not a bit, and he really would fit in there.
He's the guy I want over Harper there, because you put Machado and Didi on that side of the infield. If you somehow kept Gleyber Torres, you put him at second for Castro, and you got yourself a young infield for the next 5-10 years you'd be happy for.
I think Harper stays in the National League.
Especially because you think about it. Let's say the Dodgers get Stanton. Then you have no need in LA for Harper. You have no need in New York for Harper with Judge.
Right.
So, I mean, San Fran, maybe. There's not a lot of spots after LA and New York that he would go for that kind of money.
Chicago, that Thailand down.
Now we're gonna go back to Bryce Harper, Chris Bryant pictures in Vegas.
Well, I honestly think it's a possibility. I'm going to do a slideshow on that as soon as my staff comes back to the site. It's listed as something for Monday, but we'll see, because I need time to write it. But I do think, it's going to be, look, it's time to talk about it. We're down to the last year. What will he do and where will he go? And I think there's a very good chance that he stays. But all right. Well, not having talked with Drew about anything in the last couple of days, I will talk to you at least on this program Monday night at 9 o'clock. We'll go 9 o'clock each night of the winter meetings. I hear someone's mom. Hi, Janet. And so I will be with you if it's solo for that, and we can go through whatever happened during the day. And yes, Seth, if you're still with us and surviving finals, there's probably a decent chance that we finally get that trade during the show that you're so eagerly waiting there.
We had that luck last year, so if you take the shot, there usually is a good rumor that pops up between that time frame.
Right. And, we've still not forgiven the Chris Sale, the White Sox for the Chris Sale thing.
We had the Chris Sale thing and the Wade Davis thing, if you remember last year.
That's right.
And both.
So I will be with you at least every night, and my hope is that things will settle down enough for Drew that he'll be able to join me. So 9 o'clock, all 4 nights next week. Again, thanks to Ricky Keeler for pitch hitting for Drew.
Glad to have the Adam Lind impression. Hopefully it was more of an Adam Lind than a Wilmer Defoe.
Yeah, you definitely were not Defoe versus Kershaw. You definitely hit better than 130 off the bench. That's for sure. And I see you still have the Movember thing going on. So, it really does kind of fit in the Adam Lind thing.
There you go. That's what I was aiming for.
You got to go
slightly higher than Jose Lobatone's batting average.
Just kind of get the peroxide from your mom and lighten up the top of your hair, and then you really will have the Lind thing going.
There you go.
All right, Drew, our best to you as you go through this, and we hope to talk to you soon. District on Deck on Twitter, District on Deck on Facebook, and, of course, districtondeck.com. For Drew and the rest of the staff of District on Deck, I'm Ron Juckett. We'll talk to you Monday night at 9 o'clock. Thanks so much.